on. Coming up to 6:39 on Wall Street. Time for the Bloomberg Green Report. Here's Bob Moon.
Once the weather improved, California was able to get the upper hand on its recent wave of wildfires. Stopping the spread of false claims made by President Trump is taking a further response by scientists. Trump put the blame squarely on Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, tweeting bluntly, "Get your act together, Governor," as he claimed you don't see close to the level of burn in other states. Not true. There are far more acres burned in other places. Some 266,000 acres of California have burned this year. Alaska has lost 2.57 million acres, more than 9 times as much. And when Trump threatened to cut federal funding, he sidestepped responsibility, blaming the governor for a terrible job of forest management. Most of the fires burning recently weren't in forests, but shrub, agricultural, and grassland areas. Of the 33 million acres of forest land in California, just 3% is owned by the state, 40% by private landowners, and 57% is owned and managed by the federal government. That's the Bloomberg Green Business Report. I'm Bob Moon.
All right, Bob, thanks very much. We are coming up to 6:40 on Wall Street. Want to get a broader look at the markets this morning. Looking for some direction as we head toward the open on Wall Street. S&P futures are higher by just a quarter point. Dow futures up 11 points. NASDAQ futures a gain of 1.5. DAX in Germany is up 0.1%, while the CAC in Paris is higher by 0.3%. The FTSE in London, little change to the downside. The 10-year up 4/32. The yield there 1.84%. 2-year Treasury yield 1.60%. West Texas Intermediate crude oil is down almost 0.1%, a drop of 4 cents, $57.19 for a barrel. COMEX gold up 0.2%, up $3.20, $14.8690 gets you an ounce of gold on the COMEX. The euro is trading at 1.1084 against the dollar, and the yen is at 109.02. You are listening to Bloomberg Daybreak on this Wednesday morning.
Why is delivering the best client experience a top priority at BNY Mellon's Pershing? Michelle Feinstein, Director of Client Engagement, explains.
Today's investors want a financial relationship that's on demand, customized, and leverages the latest digital technology. At BNY Mellon's Pershing, helping advisory firms and broker-dealers create great experiences for their clients is our priority. Through our integrated wealth experience, we give you a high-touch service, flexible technology choices, and expert insights, so you can deliver a highly personalized experience to your clients at every step, from onboarding to wealth planning, to performance analysis and more. And because we're part of BNY Mellon, you'll benefit from more than 230 years of strength and stability. At Pershing, we're personally invested in your success.
Visit Pershing.com to learn more about Pershing's integrated wealth experience. Pershing LLC and Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC are both members of FINRA and SIPC.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at
London. Switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Ladies and gents, may I introduce a magical number? 25! Oh yes, 25 UK millionaires guaranteed in this Friday's Euro Millions.
Euro Millions, celebrating 25 years of the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
This is someone making an online booking at Ford.co.uk using the words Ford 20 so they can service their Ford for £20 less. And this is someone who didn't get their Ford serviced. You see, at Ford, we use Ford genuine parts and Ford-trained technicians. Plus, if you quote Ford 20 when you book with us online, you can receive £20 off. Book now at ford.co.uk or visit your local participating dealer. Ford Service. No one knows your Ford better.
Retail customers only. At participating Ford dealers. Cannot be used with other promotions. T's and C's apply. Search Ford Service for more information.
Hello, peoples of London. If you're a serial soggy sandwich eater, or your mouth water when microwave go ping, then you commit crimes against cooking. So thank goodness for Meerkat Meals. Dine out with 2-for-1 on food at your local favorites,
like Chicago Rib Shack Wandsworth and Pizza Hut.
All with the Meerkat app when you buy, so compare the market.
Oh, lunch is ready.
I'll get my coat.
Qualifying purchase 2-for-1 on equivalent starters, mains and desserts, a la carte only, Sunday to Thursday, T's and C's and exclusions apply.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price. Just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum terms. Prices may change during contract. Requires Sky Q box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
A network of news and financial information 24 hours a day. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
Democratic challenger Andy Beshear is claiming victory in Kentucky's hard-fought campaign for governor, but trailing by only a few thousand votes. The incumbent Republican Governor Matt Bevin says not so fast with the victory speeches.
This is a close race. We are not conceding this race by any stretch. Not at all.
In Virginia, for the first time in a generation, Democrats now control both houses of the state's legislature, along with the governor's mansion. Criminal investigators in northern Mexico say a suspect has been arrested and is under investigation for possible connection to the massacre of 9 American Mormons living in Mexico, all members of an extended family. Other than describing the suspect as heavily armed and holding hostages, the Mexican government has not released information. American diplomat Gordon Sondland changing his testimony in the House impeachment inquiry, now saying there was a political quid pro quo holding up U.S. military aid to Ukraine. Stock futures are flat this morning. I'm Michael Toscano.
Why all the top-tier experts? Because business is not a magic trick.
Give us a sense of the economic backdrop.
Bloomberg Markets.
Which financial records are these?
Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. It is 6:47 on Wall Street. Futures are little change to higher this morning. Let's go to the First Word breaking news desk for today's morning call. Here's Bailey Lipschultz. Bailey, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. As you said, futures are struggling to gain traction as earnings continue to roll in. The Dow's up 10 points, S&P higher by less than a point, with the Nasdaq gaining just 2 points. U.S. 10-year yield is at 1.84%. Shanghai fell less than 0.5% overnight, and European markets are trading mixed. Back in the U.S. on the economic front at 7 a.m., MBA mortgage applications. Regarding earnings, CVS third quarter EPS beat the highest analyst estimate. Humana earnings topped estimates and management boosted its outlook. Mashed shares tumbled after disappointing revenue forecast, and diet seller WW dropped after sales missed and subscribers contracted. In deal news, Xerox is considering an offer for PC giant HP Inc., according to Dow Jones reporting. Walgreens is trading higher as Investors Way reports it's reviewing a potential deal to take it private, and Aircastle will be acquired by Marubeni and Mizuho Leasing for $32 a share. In the healthcare space, small cap Supernus crashed 27% after its ADHD drug failed in a key study. And wrapping things up, CenturyLink cut to sell at Guggenheim, and NVR raised to buy over at B of A. Live from the First Word breaking news desk, I'm Bailey Lipschultz. Karen.
Bailey, thank you. And to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg, type SQUAWK on your terminal, SQUAWK. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Michael Barr with more on what's going on around the world. Michael.
Karen, lots of election news to get to. In Kentucky's race for governor, incumbent Republican Matt Bevin trails Democratic challenger Andy Beshear with a race too close to call. Beshear leads by about 4,000 votes. In Virginia, for the first time in a generation, Democrats won both houses of the legislature. Republicans in Mississippi sent another Republican to its governorship, electing Tate Reeves over Democrat Jim Hood. In New York City, Democrat Giovanni Williams wins as public advocate with more than 3/4 of the vote. In Queens, Democrat Melinda Katz is the new district attorney, also gathering more than 75%. And Democratic incumbent Farrah Lewis overwhelmingly wins a New York City Council seat. On Long Island in Suffolk County, Steve Malone is reelected as county executive with 55% of the vote. In Nassau County, Madeline Singas wins the district attorney's race. In Rockland County, Thomas Walsh is the new DA. In Yonkers, Democrat incumbent Mike Spano is reelected as mayor. Sean Patterson Howard wins the race for mayor in Mount Vernon. Turning to New Jersey now, Republican Mike Testa wins the District 1 state Senate seat. Democrats keep control of the New Jersey Assembly with unofficial results showing the party winning 50 of the state's 80 seats. In the NBA, the Celtics won. In the NHL, the Islanders won. The Devils won in a shootout. The Bruins lost. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg, Nathan.
All right, Michael, thank you. We are live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studios. We're at 6:50 on Wall Street. Time to check what's going on in D.C., where Republicans did suffer setbacks in a string of off-year elections in several southern states. President Trump's impeachment defense erodes as two envoys lay out Rudy Giuliani's role in what they call a Ukraine quid pro quo. And today, President Trump marks a federal judicial milestone in a White House speech before he heads back down south for a re-election rally in Louisiana tonight. For more on all this, we're joined by Bloomberg Washington reporter Kathleen Hunter. And of course, this week, Kate, we saw President Trump campaigning for the Republican in the Kentucky governor's race, Matt Bevin, saying that if Democrats scored the victory, that everybody would be saying that President Trump suffered a major electoral loss. How much can we tie these results to what is happening nationally?
Well, I think it's always a little bit of a risk when you draw too much of a conclusion from off-year elections or from statewide elections that might not necessarily reflect broader national trends. Usually when we have off-year elections, the electorate that comes out to vote is not necessarily the same group of people who comes out to vote if there is a nationwide election like there will be a year from now. And also a lot of it turns on individual candidates, even perhaps more so than in a presidential election year, because there isn't someone at the top of the ticket. And so I think those are kind of caveats to drawing too many conclusions out of this morning's results. But, that being said, I do think there are some promising signs for Democrats and some worrying signs for Republicans.
What signs specifically are you looking at?
Well, I think, in Kentucky, obviously Matt Bevin, the Republican governor there, who is trailing now but has not yet conceded the race, he has essentially had some problems, with popularity issues heading into that. So he's not been a particularly strong candidate. That being said, Kentucky is a state that Trump won by 30 percentage points in 2016, so it should be a Republican slam dunk. And Trump did go there to campaign for Bevin on Monday night, and he essentially, during a rally there, framed that race as a referendum on impeachment. And so if we're buying Trump's own argument there, that would be a worrying sign, I think, for Republicans, and something that they should take into consideration in a deeply red state.
Now, when we talk about developments on impeachment, the president might be seeing some worrying signs for sure with this revision of testimony, I guess you could say, from the European ambassador, Gordon Sondland. Pretty remarkable change from him.
Absolutely. And so what we heard yesterday in an addendum that Gordon Sondland filed to his original testimony was that he now recalls a September 1st conversation in which he details, what he describes now as a quid pro quo between, the U.S. and that the U.S. essentially offered the Ukraine, basically laying out what the allegation has been, which is that the U.S. held up military aid to try to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. And so it goes without saying that that's a very damaging revelation. But, I think that we have to kind of see how that plays out going forward.
And we're expecting more transcripts to come out as well. And the committees are calling for more White House witnesses to testify. What's the likelihood, given the White House stance, that some of these people like the budget chief, Russell Vought, or even acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, will actually comply with requests from the committees to go behind closed doors?
Well, the White House, as we know, has been fighting this probe kind of every step of the way. And so I wouldn't expect that to change, particularly. If anything, I would expect them to dig in more as the requests go higher up the chain to people like Mick Mulvaney, the acting chief of staff. However, that being said, I think the White House's argument that they've fundamentally been relying upon, which is that this is an illegitimate inquiry, in part because it hasn't been authorized by a House vote and it's all being conducted behind closed doors, it's becoming more and more difficult politically, if not legally, for them to make that argument now that the House has voted to authorize the inquiry and now that the aspects of the impeachment inquiry are going public. So I think, I wouldn't expect the White House to change course, but I think that it's going to be harder for them to keep relying on those same arguments. In our last minute here, I want to continue a focus that we've been seeing on the Bloomberg terminal on individual Democratic candidates. This morning, we have a focus on Cory Booker, and it seems like the New Jersey senator has had quite a bit of trouble standing out among this wide pack with his positive message. Absolutely. I think Cory Booker's in a tough position here because, you kind of go to each potential aspect of his candidacy that could make him stand out, i.e. he's, a Rhodes Scholar turned mayor. But, there's Pete Buttigieg, who has that in his resume as well and has gotten more traction. He's someone that's trying to appeal to African-American voters, but, Biden has made very good inroads with that, and so has Kamala Harris, so it's hard for him to make headway there. I think, as you say, he's focusing on, a positive message, but what does that really translate into? So far, I think he's just really, it just shows the precariousness of having such a crowded Democratic field that for someone like Cory Booker, who by all accounts does a very good job of connecting with voters, it's still hard to really kind of make headway and break into the national polls and get beyond polling at 1 or 2%. With less than 100 days to go till the first actual voting, Bloomberg Washington reporter Kathleen Hunter, thank you as always. Read more at Bloomberg.com or on the Bloomberg terminal and follow all the latest on Bloomberg Radio in Washington, Bloomberg 99.1 and 105.7 FM HD2 at 6:56 on Wall Street.
The following commentary is from Bloomberg Opinion.
I'm Liam Denning, a columnist for Bloomberg Opinion. Just a few days after Saudi Aramco kicked off the process for its long-delayed IPO, OPEC provided a timely reminder of why it's a hard sell. In its latest annual outlook, OPEC projects a combination of weaker demand growth and stronger U.S. shale production will cut demand for the group's own oil by another 2.2 million barrels a day by 2024. No wonder, therefore, that Saudi Arabia has offered a series of inducements, including guaranteed payouts, to reassure prospective buyers that its national oil champion will deliver dividends, come what may. OPEC could be wrong, of course, but Aramco isn't taking any chances with its high-profile debut. I'm Liam Denning. For more opinion, please go to Bloomberg.com/opinion or OPIN GO on the Bloomberg terminal.
This has been Bloomberg Opinion.
And Bloomberg Opinion editorials can be heard every weekday at this time, and terminal customers can read more at OPIN Go. We continue to watch shares of CVS this morning. CVS Health up 3.6% in early trading after third quarter profit beat analyst estimates, and it raised its forecast for the year. S&P futures are little change this morning, along with Dow and NASDAQ futures. The DAX in Germany is up less than 0.1%. 10-year Treasury up 4/32, yield 1.84%, and the yield on the 2-year 1.60%. NYMEX crude oil is down 0.2%. It's down 9 cents at $57.14 a barrel. Bloomberg Surveillance is straight ahead with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrow. For Nathan Hager, I'm Karen Moscow, and this is Bloomberg.
She did hit
kids. Her first word. Go on, say it again for Mummy.
Dada. Mama.
Oh.
Savings.
Did you hear that?
Savings account.
Teaching your kids how to save may not be this easy, but you can get them learning good habits and skills from an early age, thanks to the range of children's savings accounts from Yorkshire Building Society. Just another example of real help with real life. Find out more at ybs.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and come to the shops with me. We can get 10% off 2 big shops a month with the new Tesco Club Card Plus. Oh, and 10% off your favourite Tesco brands, including F&F in-store every day. All for $7.99 a month.
New Tesco Club Card Plus. Value you can't stop talking about. Subscribe online from the 8th of November. £200 max spend per shop, in-store spend only. Club card app required, exclusions apply. See online for details.
Financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Surveillance Economics.
American economic power and future depends on trade deals.
In many of these countries, we've still seen people struggling.
Finance.
We're in this vortex of uncertainty. These big companies, they just sometimes lack focus.
Investment.
The markets have become a little bit too addicted to the Fed.
Timing the market is just so difficult.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrow on Bloomberg Radio.
From New York City for our audience worldwide, good morning. Good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance. Coming up on the program, shaking off a global growth scare. The latest economic data slowly improving as the Federal Reserve Division fades. Chicago Fed President Charles Evans speaking to Bloomberg, and SoftBank reporting a $6.5 billion loss from investments in money-losing firms WeWork and Uber. From the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio, hello Wednesday. Here is your Wednesday morning price action on the S&P 500. Totally unchanged. We go nowhere on the benchmark here in the United States. In the bond market, Treasury yields coming in a couple of basis points to 184 on a 10-year. On a 2-year, down 2 basis points to 1.607%. And a shape of things in foreign exchange for you. In G10, the dollar just slightly weaker against the euro. Euro firmer, euro dollar higher by 0.1%. A ton of Fed speak to get you through today. Chicago Fed President Charles Evans speaking to Tom Keene at the Council on Foreign Relations. We'll bring that to you at 8 Eastern. I can tell you Tom Keene is just drifting by the studio looking slightly confused. I'm going to shout at him in just a moment.
That was actually the evil eye.
He should be running to this event. He should be running to it.
It wasn't confusion. That was evil eye.
Alongside me, Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney as well. Guys, we'll talk about the Fed speak and a very confused Tom Keene who can't decide whether to come into this studio or walk to this event. And we'll also talk about SoftBank as well. Yes, Paul Sweeney.
I think he's taking a picture of us.
I'm sure he is. Maybe it's a video. A $6.5 billion loss.
This is reckoning day.
At SoftBank.
Yeah.
What do you think, Paul?
This is a big issue. It's WeWork, it's Uber, and it really calls into question Masayoshi-san's kind of view of technology and evaluation here. But, Masa-san, he struck a very defiant tone when in the release of these results, saying, listen, trust me, I know what I'm doing here. We know our process does work. We had a couple of big misses here. He called it a mess of a quarter for SoftBank, but it seems like he's moving forward. They're talking about another $100 billion Vision Fund 2, I guess.
Did you see what he said about Adam Newman? He said he was blindsided by Newman's positive attributes, including his design of WeWork's offices. Blinded by positive attributes that lead you to opening your wallet and giving them $10 billion.
There's so many questions, and I think that one of the harshest things that was said by one of the investors was it raises questions about the governance structure at SoftBank, which is particularly stinging considering the fact that they're trying to press all of their portfolio companies on having better governance. What kind of example are you setting if they themselves are getting called into question by their governance?
Yeah, we're going to talk about this a little bit more a little bit later on the program. I'm pleased to say that the data slowly improving in Europe Europe. Factory orders out of Germany a little bit better. The PMI's improving just a little bit. Joining us on this program here in New York, Tom Porcelli, RBC Capital Markets Chief U.S. Economist. Good morning to you, Tom.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
You and I have talked for a number of months. Go on.
Sorry, he's not still behind me, right?
No, he's moved. He's gone. He's gone.
Tom King's shadow literally,
he's
literally looming over you.
I've now checked the internal system. He has walked out of the building.
It was priceless. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Confusing a return to trend growth with a journey to somewhere a whole lot more worrying. We've talked about this so many times through much of 2019. Now some people confusing full employment with a cyclical peak in labour market conditions. You've written about that.
Yes.
Just explore it further for us.
Yeah. So, I think one of the interesting things is I think people get caught up in sort of headlines. And I don't mean news headlines. I mean sort of, headline economic stuff. And one of the things I think people get lost in is, particularly if you're looking at sort of employment to population ratios, or if you're looking at labor force participation rates. And I think if you look at the headlines on these things, they've not really done all that much. And I think it leads people to sort of draw this conclusion that we're still not even remotely close to full employment. But what we've been saying to people is, okay, but you can't look at those specific headlines. You need to look at the cyclical part rate. You need to look at the cyclical employment to population ratio. And when you do that, and sorry, just to digress, cyclically, what I mean is, sort of the prime working age cohort, so the 25 to 54-year-olds.
Yeah,
and when you do that, what you see is that those measures have all improved dramatically, which from our perspective, again, if you look at whether it's the part rate or the employment to population ratio, we're above where we were in even certainly in the previous cycle. And so it's really easy to make the case that if you're not at full employment, you're really, really close.
I guess when I see the headlines of economic stuff, as you put it, my big question is, should I be bullish or bearish today, right? I mean, is that basically what's sort of the most, so given the fact that we are seeing better employment than expected, is that a bull argument or a bear argument?
It's funny, and Jonathan and I have certainly had this conversation before. It seems all of a sudden now, today, like literally over the last week or two, that good is good again. Right, which is sort of perverse because good was bad, bad was good. Right? We had all these weird sort of iterations, right? Which is utterly ridiculous in every way. But now all of a sudden today, good is good. And but again, I stress this is over the last week or two, and I'm defining that in terms of sort of the many clients that I speak to on a pretty regular basis. And the thing I find utterly amusing about that is nothing has changed. Literally nothing has changed over the last week or two. All of a sudden everyone is feeling a little bit better about the backdrop. So I don't know whether it is, maybe people are, sort of coming to grips with the reality that maybe something is going to get done on trade. Although I would hasten to add that anytime anyone gave me the bear case for things, they never started it off with trade. But again, maybe that's fair. Maybe it's the equity market's up 23% year to date. I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden people are feeling a little bit better about the backdrop. And I think that's all well and good, but I think I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop now, because I'm telling you, the vast majority of people that I spoke to prior to the last week or two have been overwhelmingly negative. But now all of a sudden people are feeling a little bit better about the stuff, the backdrop. Which I find silly, because I'm not sure that they're basing it on anything sound.
So Tom, could that next shoe...
Sorry, okay. I want to make sure that point is not left out there in ether. I've never thought that people should be negative, but they were. So sorry.
So would that next shoe to drop be the consumer? The consumer is arguably the only thing holding up this economy, maybe because of the at or near full employment.
Yeah, sure. I think there's no question that the consumer is sort of pulling a lot of weight, right? They're punching way above it of their weight, but. I think if you want to make the argument for the demise of the consumer, you got to really I don't even know where you would go to find that. Again, let me be clear. I don't look through the world with rose-covered glasses, but I think the labor backdrop's incredibly tight. Wage pressures continue to build. The level of saving in the United States, whether it's sort of just consumer or total private saving, is incredibly elevated, meaning that there's even some cushion should the consumer sort of suffer through some bout of hesitation. So I would say that it's really difficult to make the case that the consumer's about to roll over when all evidence to the contrary, right? The consumer's in phenomenal shape.
The division of the Fed has turned into unity, it seems, over the last couple of weeks. What do you make of that?
I just, and Tom and I were talking about this on TV a little while ago. I mean, the fact that Evans wasn't one of the folks looking for a cut not after the most recent meeting, the meeting prior. I mean, he said he wasn't one of the folks looking for a cut. I mean, I think for me we sort of had always thought that they would have a hard time getting more cuts anyway, but that really drove home for us. It's like, the hurdle for additional cuts right now is so significant. When you have all these extreme doves basically on the same page at this point. So I think it would take real deterioration from here. By the way, let's not forget, next year is an election year. And while anyone who's done this for any lengthy period of time knows that the Fed has engaged in policy action during election years, it usually takes a heck of a lot for them to engage. So I think Fed on hold is for the coming year is absolutely the right call, which the market seems to be buying into.
So you're saying that you don't want to be seen as having too much of a rose-colored view of the world, but also you've never been negative, and this nuance.
That's not true, though. No. Sorry.
You haven't.
I've never been negative.
No. Yeah, you've been negative.
Okay,
but I'm saying that you've been generally positive this
recently,
year.
Absolutely, which has been really easy.
Okay, so you've generally been positive. You also don't want to be too rosy.
Yeah.
This nuance, I think, is getting lost in this market and difficult for people to read because it has been so monolithic in its story. Either the Fed was backing it or trade was going to torpedo it. What's the sort of trade around this in terms of, does that mean markets go up or down?
Yeah. So what I would say is I think, one of the things that we had built into our view was that yields would actually start to rise. Yields would start to rise only after we got a trade deal done. Now, in fairness, we always thought a trade deal was going to get done, but we've been thinking of it more in terms of sort of a first half of 2020 event, like sort of, sometime early in the first half of the year, you get a trade deal done. So it's happening a little bit sooner than we thought. And so if you look at our forecast, we had built in a rise in yields in the second half of next year. If they do sign this deal, I think it's really easy to make the case that yields continue to rise from here. So I think it's not a good backdrop from a yield perspective or from a bond perspective in the United States, because yields will rise. I think on the back of this deal, I think the equity market and I think our equity strategists are more or less in line with this view as well. The equity market is going to perform well again in the coming year too, right? It's again, if the fundamental pieces remain in place for that to happen, it's really easy to make that case.
Tom Porcelli, always great to get your thoughts.
Thanks,
Good to see you, buddy. Tom Porcelli, RBC Capital Markets Chief U.S. Economist. We count you down to a conversation with Tom Keene and the Chicago Fed President Charles Evans. That comes to you at 8 a.m. Eastern. A ton of Fed speak as well elsewhere to talk about. We'll do that through the program with equity futures positive just a single point on the S&P 500. From New York this morning, good morning to you all. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Let's get national headlines right now with Michael Barr. Michael.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jonathan. In Kentucky's race for governor, incumbent Republican Matt Bevin trails Democratic challenger Andy Beshear by about 4,000 votes. In Virginia, for the first time in a generation, Democrats won both houses of the legislature. In New York City, Democrat Jumaane Williams wins as public advocate with more than 3/4 of the vote. In Queens, Democrat Melinda Katz is the new district attorney, also gathering more than 75%. As for ballot measures, Jersey City overwhelmingly decided to restrict home-sharing companies like Airbnb with 70% of the vote. 71% of voters in New York City approved a measure to create a city savings account. It's designed to shield residents from tax hikes during the next economic downturn. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. Paul, Lisa, Jonathan.
Michael Barr, thank you very much, sir. The appetite for risk improved over the last week. I can tell you this morning, really muted price action. Treasuries going absolutely nowhere. Equity futures pretty much dead flat. From New York, this is Bloomberg.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients, and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Startups and research universities like New Jersey Institute of Technology are fueling the innovation economy. And few people are better positioned to see what's on the horizon in New Jersey than physicist and state representative Andrew Zwicker.
How technology is transforming our financial sector is revolutionary, and so much of that is in New Jersey. We are innovators when it comes to agriculture, and there is opportunity now for great transformation in how are we going to grow food in an ever-growing population, and how do we turn urban centers into agricultural centers. Autonomous vehicles is another one where we have some of the world's leading experts, and how this will transform how those who are either elderly or are visually impaired or mobilely impaired can start to use autonomous vehicles to transform their lives and have access to transportation they could have never had before.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu/research.
Asset Man. It's another Wednesday afternoon, yet another cold day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick and explore tropical rainforests. Fly from London Gatwick to Costa Rica with British Airways from £218 each way based on a return fare. Don't miss out. Book by November the 12th at ba.com/wintersun. With British Airways, incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
At the Bank of Santander, mortgages are on the menu.
I was in the chippy last night and it hit me.
Go on.
We should give all our new mortgage customers £1,000 of spuds.
Potatoes?
Yeah, jackets, roasties, dolphin wires. I mean, what's not to love?
Hey, yeah, we could call it Mashback.
Genius.
Meanwhile, at Santander, they're giving their customers £1,000 cash back on selected first-time buyer mortgages. See what's possible at Santander.
Lending subject to status and criteria. Cashback given on completion and repayable if mortgage closed within 2 years. Offer can be withdrawn. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
What if your email let you see a project's entire history and not just the messages sent to you? What if everyone else on your team could see it as well? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Move communication from inboxes to channels in Slack. Instead of seeing a partial set of messages about a project, everyone in Slack sees exactly the same thing and moves work forward faster. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
At Argos, get them the toys they're dreaming of this Christmas. Save 20% when you spend £20 or more on toys with code TOYS20, including top brands like Peppa Pig and Lego. Enjoy same-day home delivery 7 days a week. With Argos, you're good to go. Offer ends the 12th of November, subject to availability. Exclusions apply. Delivery conditions apply. Order by 6 p.m. 90% UK coverage.
Influential conversations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Taylor Riggs.
A C-suite shakeup at the top of McDonald's has investors wondering how it will affect the company's strategy, which was poised to rely heavily on technology. From Uber Eats to kiosks and stores, the ousted CEO, Steve Easterbrook, had a distinct vision for the fast food giant, and he dedicated a good chunk of investment to innovation. Now, it will be up to Chris Kempinski to keep tabs on modernization efforts at the chain's 38,000 restaurants. With more is Morningstar consumer equity strategist RJ Hodavi. Given that we're a technology show really focused on those key innovations that McDonald's really had made, how much of the growth in the last few years and the outperformance of the stock really hinged on those investments in technology?
Yeah, I'd say it was a major driver of it. I wouldn't say it was completely dependent on technology, but it certainly was a major part of the company's growth the last couple of years. I think you have to factor in things like menu simplification and putting the refranchising, so putting company-owned stores in the hands of franchisees. But if you take a look at kind of the velocity drivers, the things that really sped up growth, it was things like the kiosks within the stores, delivery, mobile order. Those were very important. So I'd say it was probably the top contributor, but certainly played a part of a broader mosaic.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. It is 7:17 on Wall Street. And Bloomberg Daybreak is out on customer terminals, bringing you all the news you need to start your day. It's brought to you by BNY Mellon's Pershing, providing the latest thought leadership with strategic and actionable insights to help you manage and grow your business. Visit the Perspectives section of Pershing.com to learn more. Now let's check the latest headlines with Hannah George at the Bloomberg Daybreak desk. Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning, Karen. Xerox is considering a takeover offer for HP. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. HP's $27 billion market value is more than 3 times that of Xerox. The priciest ever oil auction has lured Exxon, Chevron and Shell to Brazil. They are signed up to battle with Petrobras today for prospects that could hold up to 15 billion barrels of crude. SoftBank's reporting its first quarterly operating loss in 14 years. The Vision Fund racked up an $8.9 billion loss after bets on WeWork and Uber went sour. And Republicans suffered election setbacks in 2 states. In Virginia, Democrats gained full control of the House and the Senate for the first time in 26 years. In Kentucky's race for governor, the Democrat holds a narrow lead as we await official results. For all the news you need to start your day, check out Daybreak on your mobile phone on the Bloomberg Anywhere app. Karen.
Hannah, thank you. Right now, S&P futures are up about 3 points. Dow futures up 26. NASDAQ futures up 8. And the 10-year Treasury up 3/30 seconds. Yield 1.84%. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom, John, and Lisa.
Karen, thank you. Thank you very much. Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studios here in New York City. Alongside me, Lisa Abravitz and Paul Sweeney. Just to give you a guide for the rest of this morning around the Fed speak. Chicago Fed President Charles Evans speaking to Tom Keene at the top of the hour. That comes to you at 8 a.m. Eastern. Don't miss that. We'll carry it in full and live right here on Bloomberg Radio. A little bit later, 9:30 Eastern Time, New York Fed President John Williams will be speaking. And then 3:15, you might want to keep an eye on this, Philadelphia Fed President Patrick Harker will be speaking. He will be a voting member in 2020. So to get that in your diary for Wednesday. Elsewhere, the headline for me, Paul Sweeney, just a $6.5 billion loss over at SoftBank. One of the most read stories on the Bloomberg. And not very surprising, really, for anyone, I guess.
No, this is, they've had just a very tough 2019 with WeWork and Uber and some of their other investments. This is the first loss the company's had in 14 years. So let's break it down a little bit. We're fortunate to have David Kirkpatrick in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio.
I'm fortunate to be here.
There you go. David's Tech Omni CEO and founder. So, David, I know you look at all things tech. You've got just a great view of what's happening in Silicon Valley. Is what's going on here with, you look at Uber, you look at Lyft, you look at WeWork pulling that deal, the Smile Direct deal. There seems to be a disconnect between private market valuations coming out of Silicon Valley and SoftBank and public markets. What do you make of that this year?
Well, SoftBank, I think, had a extreme impact on the markets, the private markets' opinion about what a company could be worth. But they believe, Masayoshi Son believes he can be a kingmaker. He can identify which CEOs can take a company and make it into the next Facebook. I think to some extent the existence of Facebook in particular confused a lot of people, thinking that could happen in any industry. And that's sort of the logic behind investing all that money in Uber or WeWork, which SoftBank did. I think we do now have something of a bubble, which I think SoftBank is the single biggest contributor to. So in that sense, it's a problem.
It's a problem. So the issue when you look at what Masa-san is saying here is full steam ahead. Our vision is still very much intact. We're going to raise another $100 billion fund. We're going to keep doing this. At what point does, Silicon Valley maybe, some of the more Sand Hill Road folks, the venture capital folks in Silicon Valley push back a little bit and say, listen, we have a voice at this table. We think the valuations you're putting on some of these companies is just too much.
That's a good question. I think in a lot of the companies, one of the things that's happened with SoftBank is since they have been the lead investor on so many subsequent rounds in specific companies, they keep raising the market cap of companies so they're showing a paper gain in their earlier investments, and a lot of other Silicon Valley venture capitals are coming along with that. It's hard for them to complain, because if SoftBank's willing to put in money into Uber, WeWork at $47 billion, and you're another VC that put money in at $5 billion, you like that. right? Until it's worth $8 billion. Now, in many of these cases, that deflation hasn't yet occurred. So I think in general, you're not seeing a massive reaction against SoftBank. People just hope it continues to succeed.
Well, here's my question. If you are saying that there is something of a bubble here, how does it burst?
Well, I think it's burst in the Uber and WeWork cases already, and that has got a lot of people nervous.
So you think that we've seen the extent of the pain there?
Well, here's one thing that I really think is going to be closely followed, and that is what happens to the money that SoftBank has thrown after bad in the case of WeWork, because they're putting even more money in to save the company, right? They could have sort of walked away. I think that's if WeWork somehow stabilizes and finds a path to profitability, which I can't see happening in any near term, but if it were to happen, basically that stanches sort of a whole flood of negative stuff that could otherwise happen. Also, if Uber could somehow figure out a way to be profitable, some people say their food delivery might be the key. It's a big part of their business, believe it or not. But I don't see a big fundamental shift happening in terms of the psychology.
Every time we used to discuss these companies, we talk about how they've disrupted the industry. Do you remember that? Disrupted was like the buzzword of several years ago. Every conversation, disruption. They have destroyed industries, and I just wonder what happens to these industries once these companies show they can't make a profit.
I don't fully buy that way of looking at it.
Well, push back then, please.
I mean, I think that, I was saying this on TV before, Masayoshi Son has done something very positive in the conviction he's had about the ability of digital technology to transform global economies. And I believe that is happening. And I think he has been ultimately one of the biggest cheerleaders for that and put his money where his mouth was. And I think that's not bad. I think many of these industries needed a kick in the pants. And I don't think that I don't worry as much as you seem to worry about the value destruction that's happened, say, in the taxi industry, which was an industry largely controlled by the mafia in many cities, right? So, hey, it took a tough guy like Travis Kalanick to come in and shake it up. That wasn't all bad.
David Kirkpatrick. We'll continue the conversation another time. Techonomy CEO and founder. Time is up. It's not that I don't want to argue. I promise you I do. In the equity market, futures are positive by 1/10% on the S&P 500. We are positive 3 points in the bond market. Treasuries largely unchanged. Yields lower by just a basis point. On the 10-year, 1.846%. Alongside Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney, I'm Jonathan Ferro. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. CVS Health is raising its 2019 profit forecast. It reported strong results across its pharmacy services, health insurance, and other units. At the company's brick-and-mortar pharmacies, retail sales rose, and that's good news in an industry that's facing pressure from online competitors. Shares of Match Group are plunging in pre-market trading after the online dating giant delivered quarterly forecasts that missed Wall Street estimates. Problems include mounting legal costs and also economic factors that are hitting sales growth. Walgreens is reviewing a potential deal to take the company private. The move would give the nation's largest drugstore chain time to adapt to the fast-changing retail landscape, freeing it from the quarter-by-quarter demands of public shareholders. Walgreens also owns Duane Reade drugstores. It has a market value of about $55 billion and almost $17 billion of debt. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate